And good evening, everyone, and welcome to A Week in Baseball here with Stephen Walters and Frankie Hohenstein on WGUR 95.3 The Noise. And we have a lot of baseball action for you, but before we get to it, this will be our last show of the semester, so just to let everyone know, and we want to thank everybody out there for listening in and supporting us on all of our social media pages, and it's really been a great semester of shows, Frankie.
It's been a really great opportunity for us, and can't be thankful enough for everyone here at Georgia College, at WGUR, and all the people listening out there. It's been a great experience, and I also want to apologize if my voice sounds a little bit raspy today. Participated in a singing competition yesterday, belting my heart out, so if I sound a little bit under the weather, it's more a combination of that and singing too much, so just want to put that out there.
Yeah, Frankie, part of ATO fraternity here at Georgia College, and they won Greek Week, so congrats, Frankie.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
It definitely is. And a lot of exciting baseball news this past week. One of the most exciting things that has happened this season, Jake Arrieta tossing his second no-hitter of his career, and he threw it against the Cincinnati Reds on Thursday. And also at the plate, went 2 for 4, so helping his own cause. But if you look at the numbers, 9 innings, no hits, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts, threw 119 pitches, and it wasn't, I know he said he didn't have his best breaking stuff that day, but, it was a very dominant start by Jake. And that fastball, just the movement on it, it's amazing how much movement he gets on it, and I can't imagine as a hitter even trying to hit that.
Well, that's kind of scary to think about, even when a pitcher says, I didn't even have my best stuff out there, to think throwing a no-hitter against a major league club and not even having your best up just shows how dominant he is on a regular basis, and especially with a kind of vulnerable Reds team right now. It's kind of on a off year, trying to rebuild a lot of young guys, younger talent, really take advantage of playing against them. And thing I saw a couple of days ago about kind of the splits between Arrieta, between his career in Baltimore and kind of the player he's developed into now. I believe he was kind of 5 games under 500 in a win-loss record for him, and coming over to Chicago, just a completely different ball player since 2014, 36-11 with a 1.99 ERA and almost 430 strikeouts in 416 innings. So, it's just amazing how big of a turnaround he's had since coming to Chicago.
Yeah, and, he's been one of those guys where he's finally comfortable with being who he is. I know in Baltimore, they wanted him to, change all these different things, and he just wasn't comfortable with that. So, Chicago's been a great place for him, and, it's been really fun to watch him, these past 2 years, and he's one of those guys, it's almost like he continues to get better and better as we've been going on. He is 30 years old, so has had some experience already in terms of, getting up there, not getting up there in age, but, about the midpoint of his career. But he's always had a lively arm, but he's really figuring it out, and that's what's really fun to watch, when a pitcher can just figure it out, almost like flipping a switch. So, I think at this point right now, he is the best pitcher in baseball. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, you think we're going to stop talking about him eventually, but he just continues to do something and keep continuing to be such a great player that we just can't stay away from him, kind of like the greats of other sports as well. He just keeps doing amazing things that makes us want to talk about him. And right here I've got ERA for his seasons in Baltimore, and looking at him right here, we got 4.66, 5, 6.2, 7.2, and then in 2013 coming over to Chicago, you can see it kind of start dropping down, 3.66, 2.53, 1.77, and this season 0.87 ERA right now. So we don't know what was going on there in Baltimore, but like you're talking about, getting a little bit more comfortable with himself, obviously throughout the years, being maybe a little bit more mature about his pitching style and the things that he does. But definitely just a one-of-a-kind player that's really found himself here in the majors.
Yeah, he definitely is. And just a few little facts about the no-hitter that I thought were cool. So it was the 15th no-hitter in Cubs history. He's only the 29th pitcher. Think about that. 29th pitcher since 1900 to throw multiple no-hitters. That's pretty amazing in itself. And The Reds had the longest streak of not being no-hit in the regular season up until this past no-hitter by Arrieta. And so now the A's have the longest streak. But also, some of you may think, oh, well, didn't Roy Halladay no-hit the Reds? He did. That was in the playoffs, though. But, it's definitely been a great season for Arrieta so far and a great little run. And I definitely think I wouldn't be surprised if we saw another no-hitter in the next year.
Yeah.
So, definitely fun to watch. In other baseball news, Chris Colabello of the Blue Jays was given an 80-game suspension by Major League Baseball without pay, and that was handed out on Friday, and he tested positive for, and bear with me here, dihydrochlormethyltestosterone. Pretty big mouthful. I don't know if something with a name like that, I don't know if I'd ever put that in my body, but
that sounds like something on the back of some junk food.
Yeah, exactly. But this is disappointing for baseball to have another guy, test positive. And Colabello was a great story, coming out of independent ball and signing with the Twins in 2012, and now, being suspended. So, I will say though, I'm glad that the policy for Major League Baseball has been working. But what do you think, if anything, do we need to do to completely eliminate drugs from Major League Baseball, Frankie?
Yeah, this suspension right here is definitely going to be, we keep talking about, you got to punish these guys when they do something wrong like this. And even this first time suspension, hit them with 80 games right off the bat. Don't go easy on them. Don't let this be something you can kind of get off with, throw them, 15, 25 games to start off and have this kind of system of progressively punishing them more and more each time they do something wrong, and taking away half a guy's season right off the bat is really going to kind of make not only that player but other players think about the consequences of doing these things. And the big thing, without pay, he's not getting paid for these games that he'll be missing, which is another big factor. So this is definitely a big step and the right step in being able to kind of control drugs, drug use, and PEDs in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, do you think that baseball will ever get to the point where the first suspense is over 80 games, or maybe do you think that they'll ever go to a full season for the first-time offenders?
I think so. Eventually, it's all about circumstances and situational things that happen. But I'm sure there'll be some kind of player that just maybe has an outstanding season, just like a ridiculous season, something we've never seen before, and because of whatever PEDs he was taking, enhanced his performance that much where, Major League Baseball probably thinks he doesn't deserve, kind of try to take away that season that he had and maybe hit him with a full year right off the bat because of that. And I think that would be probably the biggest reason for that to happen. But, we've been seeing like this 80-game suspension. It just keeps going up, and they're trying to just, knock that out right away.
Yeah, and, it was interesting with the statement by Colabello. I know he was very shocked that he was handed the suspension and very disappointed about this. And, a lot of players will deny it. I know some will. I know some will come forward and say, yeah, I used it because, so-and-so. But it was a little interesting, his statement, because it almost brought, like, what if this was wrong? Like, what if the test came out wrong? And I know, I know the odds of that happening are very slim, but still, it brings to question if there was anything wrong with the test. But, I definitely think that if there was something like that in his system, it most likely was, being taken, and we talked about this back in baseball class, actually, in high school. We had a baseball class, yes, it was the best, but the steroids that these guys use, they aren't just one-time use things. They don't just enter into your body. You have to use them. They know how to use them in certain regimens, or else you're not going to get anything out of it unless you use it in a certain, period. So
yeah. And there's another thing, just kind of the integrity of it, too. We haven't seen many guys come, just admit to it. And a big thing, kind of like the Ryan Braun case, where he tried to blame it on the courier that brought the test and said that he tampered with it, and try to throw that blame on somebody else. Not only get caught about lying about that, but then go again and get caught for a second time. I'm not sure if he tried to deny it the second time or not, but just the lack of integrity of just kind of owning up to it. Try to just, you're making yourself look even worse when you say these things, and it kind of finds out that you were lying to the whole time. You disappoint people of the game, your team, and just everyone in your organization.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely disappointing, and you make a mistake, you learn from it, admit it, and then move on. But good job on baseball for having these testing policies and the stricter rules in place, and we'll continue to see these penalties come down on players, and it'll just tell players, hey, you can't do that. So good job to Major League Baseball. And we will take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll highlight some injury news, as well as tell you that you can vote for the All-Star Game. And we're back here on A Week in Baseball on WGUR 95.3 The Noise. Stephen Walters and Frankie Hohenstein with you, and just a reminder to follow us on all of our social media pages. We have a Twitter page, a Facebook page, a YouTube page, and my personal blog. And the names of most of those are A Week in Baseball, and then the blog, www.aweekinbaseball.blogspot.com. And Frankie, some injury news. What do you have for me?
Yeah, the main one we've got today, Carlos Carrasco of the Indians, been placed on the 15-day DL after injuring his hamstring covering first on a play, and they're saying that he could possibly be out from anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. And Carrasco started off the season 2-0 with a 2.45 ERA, and been going to be a pretty big part of this Indians team to make it far. So, Steven, what do you think about this Carrasco injury?
Yeah, it definitely hurts the Indians' chances at just contending in general, but I think it also hurts them from a perspective of if they're not in it, then him having the hamstring injury first off sets him back in being on the mound, and if they weren't in it, they could have easily used Carrasco as one of the guys to get younger guys back, like in a trade. So I think that kind of hurts them in that perspective, but 4 to 6 weeks, only about a month, so hopefully he'll be back before that and help the Indians out. So we'll see how they kind of cue the rotation until then.
And some other injuries we've got. Philadelphia Phillies right-handed pitcher Charlie Morton also hitting the 15-day DL with a strained left hamstring. Another hamstring injury. This is the right hamstring for Alex Avila for the Chicago White Sox, also on the 15-day DL. Also got Giovanni Gallardo for the Orioles hitting the 15-day DL with a right shoulder bicep tendonitis. And then you've got Joe Kelly for the Red Sox, 15-day DL for an impingement in his right shoulder. So got to watch out for those guys. Hopefully they can make a quick and speedy recovery.
Yeah, a lot of shoulders and hamstrings there.
Yeah, beginning of the year, a lot of stuff's tight and not used to being used that much. So I'm sure we'll be seeing that through this couple beginning months.
And in other news, the All-Star Game voting is underway, and you can vote for your team's favorite players by going on to MLB.com. And this year, the game's going to be held in San Diego. To be honest, I kind of forgot that it was going to be in San Diego, Frankie, but that'll be a nice little venue for it. Petco Park, beautiful weather. It'll be a nice day out there.
Yeah, that's a nice ballpark they got out there, too.
I love the beach area, kind of where they have the sand out behind the outfield.
I want to say they have like a pet area too now, like where you can take your dogs and stuff, and it's like a designated area like right behind one of the fences where you take your dog, because it is Petco Park. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if I'm getting that beach thing messed up with a big litter box, and that's why I'm saying that, but I could have sworn there was something to do with a little pet area they got down there.
We'll have to look that up over next break, but definitely. But last year we had Josh Donaldson, the overall vote getter for Major League Baseball. He had about over 14 million votes. Bryce Harper was the NL leader with almost 14 million. Do you think that these two will beat their total votes, and do you think that both of them will be the top vote getter again in 2016?
I definitely think Bryce Harper's going to have a pretty good chance of being that overall leader in the NL. And Donaldson, that's kind of the weird thing about the All-Star game. It really kind of carries over from last season. So you couldn't necessarily not really had a great season so far, like this first half of the season, and still be a huge, leading vote getter in the All-Star game voting. But just the way that social media is kind of incorporated into this now is definitely going to help increase their totals. And we've been seeing more and more voters each year, and it just helps you, being all online now, I think, just helps to kind of get that flow a little bit more and kind of advertise it better, and really easy to just kind of click on a link, go in there, and I think you can vote like up to 10 times or something like that too. So I'm sure you got those diehard fans that just click on that.
Make a new email to do it.
I'm sure they do all they can to put those guys out there.
Yeah, and I think definitely Bryce Harper for me. In the AL, I would say Mike Trout will probably get it back, even though Trout having a decent start to the season, not too spectacular, but even maybe I'll throw in Manny Machado.
Mm-hmm.
He's having a terrific start to the season. I know he might not have the national recognition that'll get him the most votes, but I definitely think he's somebody who, given a little more being more in the public spotlight, I think he could definitely take that over. And last year was a record number of votes. Do you think that will top the 620 million this year?
Definitely think so. Just like I was talking about, just the way that they use social media now. I remember they do like the final vote thing.
Yeah.
It's all, I think you can vote through Twitter. Just put a hashtag with your person's name, and that registers as a vote. That's like one of the ways they use it to count for the final vote. I think Freeman was on it 2 years ago, I believe, so saw a lot of those on Twitter and everything. But another thing I'm thinking about right now, thinking about who's going to be starting for these All-Star games for each pitcher. We talked about Jake Arrieta. Definitely think he's going to be,
there's no question,
NL starter. And then I'm kind of thinking, AL will probably have a tight competition out there to see. David Price, you got out there, Chris Sale having a great year, a lot of good talent out there that could be competing for that starting position.
Yeah, I mean, you even have Jordan Zimmerman right now is 0 ERA.
Yep.
It'll be interesting as we get closer. Obviously, 4 starts into it, we can't really tell. But yeah, like you said, you also have Matt Latos. I highly doubt Matt Latos will start an All-Star game, but some guys off to some good starts. Even Ian Kennedy off to a great start. So, as we get closer, I think it's easier to tell. But right now, it's definitely a little too early to predict. And we will take a quick break, but when we come back, we will highlight who is hot and who is not in their current start to the 2016 season. And we're back here on A Week in Baseball. Stephen Walters and Frankie Hohenstein, and we have a new segment for you today. It's called Who's Hot and Who's Not, and we will highlight hitters around Major League Baseball, and we'll start in the National League. Frankie, your hitter who is hot right now in the National League, who is it?
Definitely got to be Daniel Murphy right now. Moving over from New York across town to the Washington Nationals, almost batting 400 at 379 right now. 9 extra base hits, 9 RBIs, and 465 on base percentage. And we all remember last season just dominating in the playoffs with all those home runs he's hit, carrying the team, not helping them advance to the World Series, and just doing a great job carrying over to this season. Last 7 games, batting about 355, 2 doubles, and that's kind of, not really seeing those power numbers like we did in the playoffs, but looking back at Murphy's career statistics, he's never really been much of a power hitter, more of an on-base kind of guy. His biggest number of home runs in a season was last year with 14, and 2013 hit 13, and highest number of RBIs was 78. So never really been a huge power guy, but hits the ball, gets on base, and plays a pretty solid job at second base.
Yeah, for me, I'm staying with the Washington Nationals. I'm going to Bryce Harper. I mean, talk about just continuing where he left off from last year. 323 average, 9 home runs, 23 RBIs, 10 walks compared to 9 strikeouts. I mean, he's doing a terrific job of doing what he did last year, of waiting for his pitch, not going out of the zone, taking his walks, and not feeling like it's all on him. So, just one of those guys where he's now really fun to watch. I know a few years ago, it was, they were putting him in the conversation with Mike Trout, and he shouldn't have been. Now he's definitely in the conversation. I would say right now he's better than Mike Trout.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, starting off the season well. His last 7 games, .261 average, but does have 3 home runs and 8 RBIs. And in the NL, Frankie, who is somebody who is not getting off to a hot start so far?
Yeah, we got to look here. Hometown fella Freddie Freeman not doing too good for the Braves right now. Only batting .177. Only hit 1 home run, 5 RBIs, and 20 strikeouts in 62 at-bats. So, something must not be clicking for him right now. I'm not really seeing any kind of power. Only 3 extra base hits. And, we talked about that wrist injury. Trying to recover from that. It's always a tough one for hitters to kind of get back in a rhythm of swinging a baseball bat that's so, used to using that wrist and not really seeing the bat speed that we used to. And his vision right now at the plate is just, horrific, obviously, from that 20 strikeout number right there. And, Nick Markakis and Adonis Garcia are really carrying the team. And remember we talked about earlier in the offseason about Freddie not trying to do too much, and he's not really doing too much right now. So that's something we got to hopefully he can turn around. And he said he's feeling a little bit better about his swing. And last 7 games, 7 for 30, a double, but 11 strikeouts. So hopefully that vision, he's got to see the ball a little bit better. But hopefully he can turn it around.
Yeah, and, he's been missing a lot of the pitches that he usually gets to. So I was watching some of the games in this weekend series with the Mets, and it was like he was just behind. He couldn't catch up at all. So hopefully that bat speed gets going for him, and hopefully he can help the Braves. Because right now, like you said, Adonis Garcia and Nick Markakis, and we'll talk about them later, they're doing a great job at the plate right now. And if Freddie Freeman was also adding into that line, they'd have a pretty good lineup as we speak. And for me, it's Andrew McCutchen, only hitting .213, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, and 21 strikeouts and 75 at-bats. And he's a guy, he had a terrific spring training, but it really hasn't carried over so far. His numbers with runners in scoring positions are really not good right now. Only 3 for 20 with RISP, and now he has walked 7 times, so his on-base percentage with RISP is better, but teams are either pitching around him or he's just not getting anything to drive guys in with. So in a sense, you could say it's not really his fault for not being able to drive in some runs, but the Pirates definitely need him to get going. And last 7 games, 138 average, that's 4 for 29, only 1 extra base hit and 11 strikeouts. So he's definitely somebody the Pirates need to get hot, and we'll see if he can kind of pick it up over these next few games.
And moving over to the American League, for my pick, I'm going with Manny Machado with the Baltimore Orioles, .380 batting average, 6 home runs, only 11 RBIs, and 8 doubles. And he's definitely picking up right where he left off last year, and has been a huge part to this Baltimore success that's going on right now with a lineup that's just been doing tons of damage out there in the AL East. And last 7 games, 10 for 29 with a .345 batting average, 4 doubles, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs. So definitely trying to improve those power numbers a little bit.
Yeah, and I almost picked Mark Trumbo of the Orioles, but I ended up going with Colby Rasmus of the Houston Astros. Rasmus, .293 average, 7 home runs, 18 RBIs, and a .440 on-base percentage. And, he's a guy accepted the qualifying offer this past offseason, and I know some are probably going to scrutinize him taking that and getting all that money, but he's somebody who he's really been able to come into his own with Houston. He's finally comfortable being in his own shoes. I know Mark DeRosa was talking about this a few weeks ago on MLB Network and saying Colby would always come up to him and just say, hey, like, what am I doing wrong? What's going on? Because they would always have little things like, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that, in Toronto and St. Louis. So it's good for him to be comfortable and be the player that he can be. And, being that veteran guy right now, he's been through it a little more, matured a little more, and Last 7 games, 286 average, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, and on Saturday he went 2 for 4 with a home run and 5 RBIs against Boston. So big day for him this past weekend. And we move to the AL, they're not hot right now. Frankie, who's your guy?
Right now we got Albert Pujols with a 153 batting average. He's got 3 home runs and 12 RBIs, but just not putting the ball in play like he needs to be, and kind of getting up there in age. We all remember that huge contract that the Angels signed with him back in, I believe, 2013, right after the World Series with the Cardinals. And yesterday he actually hit his 563rd home run, tying Reggie Jackson for 13th all time in the home run record. And looking at his last 7 games, batting .077, only 2 for 26, and one of those hits being a home run. So you need Pujols to really pick it up.
Yeah, but yesterday that home run did tie Reggie Jackson for 13th all-time with his 563rd home run, so definitely exciting with the milestone chase of Pujols there. And for me, it's Troy Tulowitzki of the Toronto Blue Jays. Tulo only 179, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, and 20 strikeouts thus far this season. And I remember back in spring training, he was trying out a leg kick to try to increase his power. I know guys like Bautista and them over on the Blue Jays, a lot of them do implement the leg kick, but scrapped that early in the season and really had trouble with his timing. Even with going back to what he did so well with the toe tap for years. So, he has hit decently in his last 7 games, 7 for 25, which is 280 average, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, and 5 walks compared to 6 strikeouts. So it's definitely getting more comfortable, but we'll still have to see how he can, recover and get his timing back as we go forward. And we have some pitching matchups to watch for today's game slate. We have first the Royals at the Angels, and that's at 10:05 tonight. Ian Kennedy and Garrett Richards is the matchup, and Kennedy thus far this season starting off well. After signing that contract, I know a lot of people were skeptical on the amount of money that the Royals gave him, but so far 2-1 with a 1.35 ERA. And on the other side of the ball, Garrett Richards 0-3, but with a 3 ERA even, and he's pitched well, Frankie, but just hasn't really gotten much support on the other side.
Yeah, pitching up against Arrieta, Hamels, and Chris Sale, so it's hard to get that run support. Not a too bad ERA with a 3 ERA, but having some offensive issues to get some runs on the board while he's pitching, and that can be kind of mentally a big struggle mentally for a pitcher when you're pitching, solid and not trying your hardest to try to get guys out and just not getting that offensive power that you need. So hopefully we can kind of turn this season around. And, we talked about Pujols and Mike Trout not really having, the greatest of seasons right now. So they're really going to need them to pick it up.
You bet. And another matchup to watch for today, the Orioles at the Rays, and Kevin Gausman taking on Chris Archer. Gausman going to be activated from the DL. He had shoulder tendonitis, and he's going to make his first start of the season. And Chris Archer, oh man, he's had a rough go-around. 0-4 with a 7.32 ERA in 4 starts, and the longest he's gone in a game so far is 5 1/3, and that was against Cleveland. So, it hasn't really been a good season for him. Frankie, what are your thoughts so far, and what have you seen from him? Because I know he's had some success here and there. I know his first game he struck out over, I think it was 12.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like we talked about, longest outing being 5 innings, and he's averaging 13 strikeouts per 9 innings, but if you think about it, he's out there so long because guys just keep getting hits off him, so that's why that number is so high, that he's getting a lot of his outs from strikeouts, but there's a lot of hits in between there, and his slider has just not been there the way that it was last year, and his velocity on his fastball is also down, so it's not as big as a struggle for hitters to be, all over him. His command as well is just kind of all over the place. Hasn't really been able to zone in on a certain spot and really hit that spot constantly. So, and he really tried to work on his changeup this spring, and it really has backfired on him.
Yeah, I think he tried to focus too much on adding something else and not really sticking with what worked, because I think it kind of backfired working on the changeup more and not focusing as much on the slider. So hopefully he can figure it out in the next few weeks and get back to that dominating guy that he was last year. And another matchup, this one very exciting. We have the Reds at the Mets. Raisel Iglesias taking on Thor, or Noah Syndergaard as he's commonly known, I guess. Iglesias 1-1, 3.09 ERA coming into today, and Syndergaard 2-0 with a .90 ERA. And last time out, really had a good outing against the Phillies. 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, and he picked up the win in that one. And the Mets have won 11 of their last 13 against the Reds, so with Thor on the mound, I can imagine that they make that 12 out of the last 14.
Mm-hmm.
And another one for you, the A's at the Tigers. We have Kendall Graveman and Jordan Zimmerman. And Graveman, one of those guys who came over in the Josh Donaldson deal, so good for the A's to see him doing well and being successful at the major league level. So far this season, 1-1 with a 2.04 ERA, and he got the win against the Yankees last time out. 6 in the third, 3 hits, 1 earned, 3 walks, and 8 strikeouts. And Jordan Zimmerman, Frankie, how has his season been so far?
We talked about him earlier. 3-0 with a blank slate for his ERA. Nothing scored against him yet. And, even pitching against some really good teams, playing against the Royals in his last outing, 6 1/3 innings, only 7 hits came up, and like we said, 0 runs, only 1 walk, and 8 strikeouts. So, he's competing with the best of them, moving over to the American League with some tough hitters out there, and I think he might have the edge on them, not really facing these guys as much as the National League guys, and I think it's really helping him out right now.
Yeah, definitely a great acquisition for Detroit. And finally, the matchups to watch of today, the Cardinals and the Diamondbacks play at 9:40 p.m. Eastern tonight, and that's Jaime Garcia and Zach Greinke. And Garcia, he's been really good since he's come back last year. 2 starts ago, he had a complete game 1-hit shutout against the Brewers, and he only walked 1 and struck out 13 in that one. And Greinke, on the other side of the ball, has not been the Zach Greinke of usual. 1-2 with a 5.25 ERA in 4 starts, but did settle down against the Giants in his last start. He picked up the win, going 6 2/3, 6 hits, 1 earned, 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts. So, Frankie, I know he has a lot of expectations coming in with that big contract. Do you think that is affecting his performance at all?
No, I think it's mainly just kind of a new team, a new ballpark, just kind of get settled down in and get used to that kind of system that they have there. But I never really think that Greinke's had super tremendous starts to his season. I never really, not that I can remember, where he was just, dominant right off the bat. Kind of, as he got deeper into the season, kind of settled down a little bit more and really showed us that Greinke that we've come to know.
Yeah, it's almost like last year. It didn't, like you said, he doesn't wow you at the beginning, but then you get to the All-Star break and you're like, wow, he's got a sub-2 ERA, and then at the end it's like, wow, he's got a 1.66 ERA. So yeah, I think he'll definitely figure it out. And working with new catchers too is also hard. I know having AJ Ellis and Yasmani Grandal over there in Los Angeles, it's definitely a change coming over and having to work with Wellington Garcia, who good catcher, but just finding a new guy, having to get on the same page. So we'll definitely probably see some success soon from Greinke. And we will take a quick break, but when we come back, we will highlight some Braves news as well as get to our favorite segment, Frankie's 5. And we're back here on A Week in Baseball. Stephen Walters and Frankie Hohenstein with you. And just a reminder to follow us on all of our social media pages. And so we get to some Braves news, and the Braves, at a record of 4-14 right now, are on a 5-game losing streak, but glad they're at least in the win column so far. Their last 10 games, they're 4-6, and it's just been, I think it's come down to the pitching, Frankie.
Yeah, that's been a big part of it. Matt Weissler He's been pitching pretty well for the Braves. 0-1 with a 3.10 ERA in 4 appearances, only 3 of those being starts. And, the hitting side's really been hurting us, Steven.
Yeah, I mean, besides Adonis Garcia, who's hitting .317 with a homer and 6 RBIs, and Nick Markakis, who right now is leading the league in doubles and is hitting .303 with 14 RBIs. I mean, you really don't have much going for the Braves hitting-wise. We have scored some runs, but there's just some guys who really aren't producing. We only have 3 home runs as a team, which is very alarming in a sense. Eric Ibar really not off to a good start at all. He's only hitting 136. Freddie Freeman, as we said before, hitting 177. So, you're just hoping that some of these guys get going and hoping sooner than later, because the Braves could have a lot more wins. I say that they could easily be 500 right now, especially even if the bullpen holds some of those leads. I know in extra innings, Braves haven't really done too well so far. Haven't been able to put runs up on the board in the extras, but it's once again, it's not a bad Braves team right now. It's just a Braves team that is hitting inconsistencies and slumps. So
and some tough opponents too, with Nationals and Mets in the NL East as well. Some pretty stacked teams right now that we're gonna have to be facing a good chunk of the season.
Yeah, and we have seen some prospects recently. Malik Smith coming up, but he hasn't really hit. He's really looked overmatched. 15 strikeouts and 42 at-bats. That's an alarming rate. Aaron Blair debuted on Sunday, took the loss, went 5 1/3, 6 hits, 3 earned, 2 walks, and a strikeout. So, he did look good. Obviously didn't get the result he wanted, but definitely exciting to see him, and he can be a big piece for the rotation. And now we have Frankie's 5, which we highlight the 5 best matchups of the weekend. This week, Frankie, what are you going to highlight?
This week we've got the best matchups for hitters against their opposing pitchers for the next 3 days. So first one to start off with is tonight, Twins at Cleveland. And this matchup, Danny Salazar is pitching tonight. And the matchup we want to watch for, Brian Dozier. This season we talked about him last week, only batting 192 so far. And against Salazar, Salazar's been one of the better pitchers in the AL of recent years, and Dozier has been batting 500 against him in his career with 18 at bats, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, 2 walks. So he's really just been, on top of whatever Salazar's been giving him. And Salazar this season still, pitching extremely well, 2-1 with a 1.47 ERA. And then tomorrow we've got Royals at Angels, and Jared Weaver pitching in that one. We got to watch out for Kendrys Morales, batting 242 on the season. Against Weaver, his career 8 for 14 with a home run, RBI, and 3 walks. So in Weaver this season, doing pretty well with 2-0 win-loss record, and then also a 3.12 ERA. So, hopefully, we talked about him before, trying to get back to that old Jared Weaver of old. Also, tomorrow night, we got the Mariners and the Astros. Dallas Keuchel pitching in that one, and someone that's just taken him to town his whole career, Nelson Cruz, this season batting 286 with 4 home runs, 12 RBIs, and against Keuchel, batting 500, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, and 3 walks. Another, really talented pitcher that's just, taking advantage of Nelson Cruz, big power guy, and you kind of got Keuchel, more of the command and breaking pitcher, and I guess Nelson Cruz really eats him up in that situation. And, Keuchel not doing too hot this year, 2-2 with a 3.71 ERA. Yeah,
I feel like a lot of those power righties really feast off those command, slower lefties. Because, as a hitter, that righty-lefty matchup, I'll take that any day. Because, a lot easier than hitting against a right-hander with all those breaking balls coming in. So.
Yep. All right, and this is on Wednesday. Got a double one here. This is the Giants and Padres. Andrew Cashner pitching in that one. 2 guys that have just kind of gone off on Cashner his entire career, Brandon Crawford and Buster Posey. So combined against Cashner, they are 17 for 36 39 with 3 home runs, 9 RBIs, and 5 walks. Posey batting .266 on the season with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs. And you got Crawford, .234 with 2 home runs and 4 RBIs. And Cashner, never really come onto his own since he's been in the league. I think he's had some kind of, shines of dominance at points, but has not really been able to establish himself over there in San Diego. And this season he's 1-1 with a 4.29 ERA.
Yeah, and hopefully, for the Giants hitters, for some of them, like Posey and Crawford, hopefully this will be a start to them getting hot. Like you said, the averages about the mid or lower 200s, and Posey and Crawford, 2 guys that they really need to get going. I know the lineup so far is doing well, scoring runs with guys like Angel Pagan, Hunter Pence, Brandon Belt, but they could definitely use the boost.
Yeah, and another thing I saw, Hunter Pence, horrible against Andrew Cashner. I think he has a sub 100 batting average against him. Don't know, what's going on there, why he has so much trouble with them, but just thought that was kind of, interesting as well. And then also, final one, another 2 guys that just have been pounding off a pitcher, Orioles at Rays. You got Matt Moore, and then Adam Jones and Matt Wieters combined 19 for 41 off Matt Moore with 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, and 4 walks. And Adam Jones not doing too well this season to start off. 1 home run, 5 RBIs, and he also got Wieters kind of in the same boat, 233 with 1 home run and 8 RBIs. But Matt Moore 1-1 this season with a 3.6 ERA, and just going back to Matt Moore, had so much expectations to start off his career, and a couple injuries as of recently, hasn't really been able to bounce back off that and establish himself as the expectations that he had in that Tampa Bay system.
Yeah, and I will say though, he has done a good job this season of trying to bounce back, and I think this season will go a long way for him to have that off season where he was healthy to be able to strengthen everything fully. So but this will be a good matchup with him going against that high-powered Orioles offense as a whole. And lefties, there's a lot of righties in the Orioles lineup, so they usually do hit lefties well with guys like J.J. Hardy, like you said, Adam Jones, Manny Machado, and Mark Trumbo, who's having a great start as well. So we should see some high-powered offense this week, and so definitely don't miss out. And we just want to thank you so much for listening throughout this whole year. We really appreciate everyone's support, and it's been a fun year, as we said at the top of the hour. It's been a great opportunity from Georgia College and WGUR to do this, and we are definitely coming back on next year, so do not miss us next year. Follow us on all of our pages for this summer. I know we're going to try to get out some podcasts, maybe do that over the summer to keep this up, but we're definitely not going away, and a week in baseball will definitely be here for years to come. So,
and a big shout out to Stephen Walters right now with the Giants shirt on and the Rocky shorts. So, thought that was a good choice for Stephen. Got that orange and the purple, the Halloween colors going on. But that's Stephen. He's got it going.
Hey, I got these quick little mess around stories. I got the Rocky shorts and the Royal shorts on clearance on MLB.com a few years ago. Great deal, because the shorts were regularly $45. Yeah, so got them for I think $15 a piece, which is not bad at all. I think I had a coupon or something. Yeah. Who knows? But so yeah, I kind of just threw on some black shorts, threw on the black shirt, and hopefully I'm not confusing anybody with the Rockies.
Yeah, they're not too conflicting right now, so I kind of made it sound worse than it is, but it's only in the logos are the colors, so he did a good job about matching. Sorry.
No, it's all right, Frankie. It's all right. Oh, any fashion faux pas over there?
No, I just kind of, I grab a shirt, grab shorts, grab some socks, put it on, and if people judge me,
who cares?
That's their problem.
Exactly. There we go. Just like you, Frankie. No, I'm just kidding. Well, once again, thank you so much, Frankie. Thanks for being a great co-host, and we will see you next semester.